Hey Michigan, John James here, approving this ad. By now you've seen the nasty attack ads from Gary Peters. He says, I'm not my own man, but here's the truth. I believe a quality education is a basic civil right. Students in Michigan are behind, parents are desperate, teachers are at their wits' end, and Senator Peters can't even show up for work. Listen up, Senator. You're not running against President Trump or Betsy DeVos or any other boogeyman. You're running against me. This may surprise you, Senator, but no one owns me.
Good evening. Welcome, everybody. Special night for fighting for the Republic. And it is going to be, how do you want to say it? Muhammad Ali against Wimpy, if you know Popeye. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I hope you do. It is going to be a very interesting night. Indeed, we have the champ, President Trump, and we have, if he's still awake, Joe. God only knows. I see where he wanted to actually do this viral. Come on. Get with it, Joe. You know how to do debates. It is it's going to be one of the most interesting nights indeed. Yes, I'm using a different chat because I'd like everybody to be able to interact. I think it's very healthy for people with different sides to talk, but Joe doesn't know really how to talk. Hey, Tracy. So when we have such a mismatch, I mean, this is going to be nothing. Okay, anybody take wagers whether Joe's going to mispronounce where he's at, when he's at, how many years he's been in the Senate? Let's take a vote on that one. I mean, this is going to be a no-brainer. Joe Biden did not want to take a drug test, and the president did. Should tell you a lot of different things. Now, I've seen some pictures where he's got a little sore on his hand. He's got like red spots on his temple. It's very interesting, but I'm not going to insinuate anything because you can't. If you do, that's never a good thing if you're wrong. And you got to be the best. You got to do the most correct you can with the situation of mainstream media, with well, they're not hard to debunk no matter what. But you also got fake accounts on social media as well. So you always got to be careful. And somebody brought up a good topic, and I need to look for it because they were talking about the old post office, and that's something Trump did. He helped rebuild that in 2016. But if you remember that, if you've seen it, it's really good. He brought all these generals out behind him, and it was basically to give his answer whether or not he believed Obama's birth certificate or not. So I thought that was just epic, total epic, because he did not say anything until the very end, and then he left. That was he punked them so good, and he is the master, what they call the master troll. But I wanted to bring you a little something before the debate starts. I thought you might enjoy. And here is creepy Sleepy Joe himself. But this is basically Joe diGenova and Victoria Townsend with Sebastian Gorka. They did an interview. And let me get that for you. About, well, let's let you watch it.
One nation, indivisible.
After 15 months, U.S. Attorney John Durham, who was assigned by William Barr to investigate the...
Is under God, for real.
Excuse me? I know I'm an immigrant, but I actually learned the Pledge of Allegiance. Stop laughing! What is this, some kind of comedy stand-up routine? I know we're listening to Joe Biden. I'm Sebastian Gorka, and I can actually say that the allegiance to our nation includes the phrase, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I go any further, please join our DLive YouTube, which I see is actually working, Periscope, and Twitch and Twitter, which is basically Periscope.
Joe Biden, it's a little bit different. It's I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, one nation, indivisible, under God, for real. I just had to open the show with that, and to welcome our guest, Joe diGenova, Victoria Townsend, former chief counsel to Barry Goldwater, also former U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia and independent counsel. It's so great to have you back.
Great to be back.
The only quote from the presidents that I was missing was Obama saying, if you like your health insurance,
You can keep it.
And then he won 57 states.
57, indeed. I think he was adding a few. He traveled to all of them.
That's what the Democrats want, though. They want 57 states.
They want at least two more, and then they'll find some more. They'll find another 5 while they're at
California becomes 3.
Oh, don't give them ideas. Will you just stop it? We're not here to give the Democrats ideas. Things are crazy enough. Follow this rambunctious troublemaking couple on Twitter at Vic Townsend. That's TOENSING. And you are with us for gloriously the whole hour. It's not as if we don't have anything to talk about. Surprise, stop it, behave. Surprise. Well, let's start with the big news. This is from Ryan Saavedra from the Daily Wire. The president yesterday met with Amy Coney Barrett and reportedly is, quote, moving towards nominating her to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This is from Bloomberg. Trump has told allies that he thinks Barrett, 48, is a smart, hard-nosed conservative jurist who would also come across well during televised confirmation hearings. Trump also believes Barrett won't be wobbly on major issues for conservatives, including abortion, gun rights, healthcare, and when all of these come before the court. And incredibly, Mitt Romney, Pierre Delicto, has said he will vote if the nomination comes to the floor of the Senate. He's not saying how he'll vote, but unlike Republican Senators Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, who have said that we must wait till after the election, Mitt is actually in favor of the process going forward. Now, we must discuss all kinds of things, but talk to us. Mitt Romney, what is going on? Are the pigs flying past the window, Joe and Victoria?
He must have gotten a lot of calls from his constituents.
So this is cynical politicking from Mitt Romney?
Of course.
Yes, this has nothing to do with the Constitution or the power of the Senate,
or his
the
job,
responsibility of the Senate. It has everything to do with his job. I think he's found himself out on a limb, and this is pretty easy stuff. A Mormon voting for a Catholic woman, it's got to happen, and if it didn't happen, he's going to pay a dear price over the long haul.
And by the way, Susan Collins thought that Merrick Garland should be voted on. There's a quote from her saying she thought that the process.
Well, let's talk about the brouhaha since the news broke this weekend. We have to note first historically that no president since Nixon, so the last 50 years, has got to nominate 3 Supreme Court justices in his first term, which is potentially what we are witnessing. Ronald Reagan got to do it in his second term, but we're being told, Joe, Victoria, we're being told that, well, you can't do this. You've got to wait for the will of the people, and there's not enough time left. Your response?
The will of the people was they voted to keep the Republicans in charge of the Senate in 2018, notwithstanding their horrible confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, it was just.
I think
awful.
The Republicans kept the Senate because of the way Brett Kavanaugh was treated.
Yes,
all the Democrats who voted against him lost.
Right, they paid the price for their behavior.
So I think the Senate issue around Supreme Court nominations has now gotten into the psyche of the American people as a very powerful political issue.
Are you surprised? I am. Are you surprised by what we have seen in just the last 24, 48 hours, that there seems to be a little bit of a coalescing, a little bit of spines being located amongst the establishment Republicans?
I am a little bit, but again, this is the singular moment of the 21st century, because remember, if let's assume it's Amy Coney Barrett and she's confirmed, that means technically it's a 63 conservative majority, and if we lose Roberts, which is always possible, it's 5-4 solid.
Right.
I mean, the game is over. This is the big casino for Republicans and conservatives. So the bottom line is, it doesn't get any more important than this.
The big casino. I'm going to write that down. I like that. As a legal professional who's had a sterling career in private practice on Capitol Hill, talk to us about what you expect if Donald Trump, that rank misogynist, nominates a woman to be his 3rd Supreme Court nominee. What do you expect is going to be the playbook from the other side, Victoria?
Well, I don't know how they're really going to go after personal stuff with a woman who has 5 children of her own and 2 children that she's adopted from Haiti. It's a rough haul.
Can I give you an indication?
They're going.
Let's play Video Cut 13, because I think this is the most likely tack that we can expect, because they've done it before. This is Dianne Feinstein 3 years ago. Eric, play Video Cut 13.
Dogma and law are 2 different things. When you read your speeches, the conclusion one draws is that the dogma lives loudly within you.
I was just trying not to overlap the audio, but they are going after her faith, her religion.
And that's of concern.
I thought we don't have a religious test in a government office, Victoria.
Yeah, last time I checked, we didn't. I thought that's like saying, well, if you're Jewish, every male has to be circumcised. I mean, no.
So will this be the procedure? Are they going to go after her being a good Catholic?
But this was done obtusely.
Yes.
This was not done directly.
No, but it was an affront to those of faith.
Yes, but they will really attack that if she's put on the court, everyone's going to lose their health care, and 100 million or 200 million, depending on Joe Biden's statistics, women are going to die. That's what it will be.
Remember, Dick Durbin did the same thing. He attacked her Catholicism. I think that if they take this tack, if the Democrats take the tack of attacking her Catholicism, and make no mistake about it, that's precisely what they were doing. They were attacking
Yes.
Catholicism. This is all about their God, abortion. And the bottom line is this: if they attack her like that in public, they will lose the House definitely.
Could this be worse than the Brett Kavanaugh hearings?
No,
Travesty.
I don't think it can be worse than Kavanaugh. I don't think anything will ever match that and the disgusting depravity to which the Democrats sank. But it can get very ugly. And I think religion at this point in our history is a dangerous rail for the
So he just said if they attacked her faith, they're going to lose the House. Remember that.
Democrats. Especially, I must say, I was appalled that a Jew, Dianne Feinstein, would attack a Catholic. I mean, the image of that was so disgusting, and she appeared to be completely oblivious to it. It didn't even cross her mind. Well, that's what's horrible. She didn't think it was a bad idea.
Let's look at what's happened to the Democrat Party. It's become a hotbed of anti-Semitism. So everything is possible in today's Democrat Party. No?
Of course. I want to bring in an important fact, though, about Ruth Ginsburg and Roe v. Wade, because we're talking about the abortion issue as what.
Yeah.
We've got 60 seconds, but just tease it. What did you find about Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
She criticized Roe v. Wade.
What?
Yes.
Is this possible? The saint, the benighted apostle,
protector of abortion rights,
had a problem with Roe v. Wade?
Yeah.
All right, guys, I didn't know that until I stepped into my green room today, and we're going to tell you the truth about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her take on Roe v. Wade here on America First on the Salem Radio Network with none other than Victoria Tunsing and Joe Genova, live streaming on YouTube, on Facebook Live, and available on Instagram TV. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, don't you dare touch that dial.
If you'd like to stay strong and independent as you age, then listen to the story.
But we're going to have
Well, they didn't. Let me see.
a process that you'll be proud of. The nominee is going to be supported by every Republican in the Judiciary Committee, and we've got the votes to confirm the justice on the floor of the Senate before the election, and that's what's coming.
Lindsey Graham talking tough as usual. Does it mean anything? I don't know. I really don't know. All I've got to ask my guests, because they've seen swamp creatures for much longer than I have. Do we expect this to happen? 41 days. Is there going to be a nomination by Saturday? And is the Senate going to vote on it? Victoria Tensing,
Yes.
Judge Genova. Go ahead, Victoria.
Yes. And Joe's going to agree with me.
The answer is emphatically yes. It's going to happen.
They found their spine? I have to ask you again.
Listen.
You think that or they're just afraid?
There's only one reason this happens. It's Trump. When Trump called Brett Kavanaugh during the confirmation hearings and said, "You better stand up for yourself," that's the next day when Kavanaugh gave the famous speech.
Correct.
And that Trump gave him backbone. He has given everybody backbone. For the people who don't like Trump are people who don't like politics. They don't like winning. They don't like power. They don't like how our country needs to be saved.
Yeah.
Trump is an amazing human being. People do not understand. He is a force of nature. And whatever his flaws are, and they, in my opinion, are few, it's on the fringes. It's like artwork. I don't like the frame. Okay, great. What about the Mona Lisa? For I'd say.
That's
But
good.
you know what is a domestic equivalent of the foreign policy? We're doing away with Soleimani.
Yes.
I mean, the Mideast finally understood. He meant business.
And look where we are. Look at what's been done with Israel.
Three nations coming together, first time in 26 years. They said it could not be done. And you add the Balkans, and it truly shows you that the swamp is the swamp.
It's asymmetrical thinking. It's like warfare. What he did was he said, okay, everybody's always focusing on the Palestinians. Screw them. I'm going to focus on the rest of the Arab world. Bingo. Results.
Well, that's like making peace with the Democrats. I mean, you can't do it. You're not going to make peace with the Palestinians.
Well, they don't want to.
Never.
That's a good analogy.
No, it is.
Oh, no, that's it. You've cracked it.
Yeah.
So let me be clear here. We have to talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Roe v. Wade because people are going to get angry if we don't finish that. But, so full disclosure, I knew the Palestinians could not be negotiated with because they want to destroy Israel. But Jared and Jason wanted to find out for themselves. And I said, okay, guys, I'll advise you and we'll talk about this off record, but you have to go and find it out for yourselves. And it took them 1.5 years. And they realized you cannot make peace with those who don't want peace. And this is the Democrats.
Bingo.
This is why you can't negotiate with them.
They are the Palestinians.
Wow,
squared.
can I write that article? Will you give me
Absolutely.
that permission?
Have at it.
All right.
Of
First,
course.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg
Ginsburg.
and Roe v. Wade. You found something. What did you find, Victoria?
Well, let me give you a little bit of context. First of all, I'm pro-choice because I'm libertarian. I don't like the government telling me what I can do or not do. Although I would never have an abortion, but I want.
You
that.
don't want federal
It's just-
government involved. Right.
Not at all. And the criticism that Joe and I have of Roe v. Wade was there was really no basis in
It's
the law.
lousy
It's bad
jurisprudence.
law.
It's what we
Made
call
up.
lousy jurisprudence.
And here
Created a right out of nothing.
Right.
and too soon. And Ruth's criticism of it, and I've known this for years because I knew her, was that it should have taken longer. And her quote was that it stopped the momentum on the side of change. She wanted the change to occur, but she thought that they should have waited, the court should have waited until it percolated through state legislatures and state courts.
So a more deliberative process
Absolutely.
involving
Yes.
the states.
Because what it did was it just split the United States.
Well, also, and again, I'm not a lawyer, so you have to correct me. The idea, as I understand it, is this law that has permitted tens of millions of Americans, lots of black babies, to be terminated, is based upon the right of privacy. Sorry?
Yes.
A penumbra. A penumbra of a right
and
of
Ruth made
privacy.
another excellent point. She says, well, it really wasn't woman-centered. It was physician-centered.
Yes.
It allowed doctors to do what they wanted to do.
So bad law, bad
Yeah.
law. And is this why the left is going insane? Because they're afraid of Roe v. Wade being overturned?
Well, of course. I mean, that's their Bible, that's their religion, is abortion. And whatever one may think of abortion, what the Supreme Court did in Roe v. Wade was stop the clock. And what they did was there was change underway in the country. This issue was being discussed from the ground up, from the grassroots, from the people, from the legislatures. And it's the way we are supposed to make decisions. When Harry Blackmun decided he was going to impose this decision on the world, not only did he stop that movement, as Ruth Bader Ginsburg bemoaned, but he did something else. He galvanized a political movement which has changed this country forever. He created Ronald Reagan. He created all of the things that they didn't want to
Fascinating.
do, and it created a political movement which catapulted the Republican Party into majority status.
And it also created a weird Republican Party for a while.
So there's a line between Roe v. Wade and Reagan?
Oh,
That's fascinating.
absolutely.
Go ahead. Why was it weird?
Even though he was not a big deal on the issue.
No.
In fact, he was pro-choice.
Yeah.
He was.
But
And
Why was
I
the
knew-
Republican Party after Roe v.
because,
Wade weird?
because it was the litmus test. And only if you were pro-life were you to be able to be a candidate for most of the
Yeah, the
House of
Republicans went
Representatives.
overboard.
but before Roe v. Wade, there were pro-life Democrats.
And,
Oh, yes.
and both
Not
and,
anymore.
and
Not
Republicans were on both sides.
Yes.
But it skewed it so that you really got some nutcakes because the first test, the litmus test
litmus
was,
test.
are you pro-life? And then anything else, rather than getting really some thoughtful people.
There were a lot
there
of
are thoughtful
there
people
were a
on
lot
both
of
sides.
there were a lot of Judge Moores running around at that time.
Uh-huh.
And that's what you got from Roe v. Wade on the right side. And
So an
effect-
emphasis on extremism on both sides.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it was a catalyst
It created
to create
extremism
extremism on
left and right.
both sides.
and
That's fascinating.
But I will say this: the Republicans were the beneficiaries of a better form of extremism because they were more dedicated to the issue at that time. Now the left it's really actually they're off balance. The left has become crazy about abortion because their problem not only is the issue, it's science. Now we
Yes.
know that life begins much earlier,
Right.
and we can prove it.
Yeah.
I mean, they always
pain.
say, listen to the science, And the fact is, we now know because of the technology of photography and sonograms and other things that a baby is formed relatively early, and it throws the basis of Roe v. Wade, the medical basis, into question.
But here's the ridiculous concern on the part of the liberals. If Roe v. Wade were overturned, it would still be legal. Abortion would still be legal in most
Well, look,
of the states.
I'm a good mackerel snapper, and in the Catholic faith, there is a principle of subsidiarity, that most issues are best decided at the level where they are closest to the event occurring. So the idea that Washington, D.C. should be deciding about somebody terminating a pregnancy in Wisconsin,
Sorry,
why?
those are too
Surely this republic was created as a republic of states for a reason, that certain things are best decided where? At the
local
point
level.
closest to the person they affect, right?
You'd
It
be
is the
against a federal mask mandate then.
It is-
I
it
don't
is-
wear a mask.
And that description that you've given, a structural description of the church, is why we have an electoral college.
Exactly. We got to talk about that as well. We're having far too much fun time. 1 hour isn't going to be enough. We're just going to handcuff them to their chairs. They are Victoria Tunsing, Joe DeGenova, champions of truth. I'm Sebastian Gorka. This is America First on the Salem Radio Network, live streaming on YouTube, on Facebook. Don't forget to subscribe. Go to YouTube, hit the subscription button, hit the notifications bell twice, and you
Like
won't
amazing
miss
music.
a thing. Back with Joe and Victoria after these messages. As former Deputy Assistant to President Donald Trump, I have briefed the President of...
Yeah, but I've kind of had issues with Gorka, and I'm sure a lot of other people's have too. He's kind of an opportunist. Yeah, it's good to be a capitalist, but you know what I mean. Misspelled in a couple things in there. I got monster thumbs, and I can't type on a darn phone. So don't need to go into ads or anything else like that. So I just turned the volume down, waiting for the president and Joe Biden to start their first debate. It ought to be very exciting.
This is really not a rally, you know this. This has to do with workers, programs, all the things we love, but this is really, we call it a friendly protest, okay? And you know what we're protesting? We're protesting stupidity, okay? So many stupid things you see here.
Oh, you just got to give it to the man. He's back in his form. He's my old boss. He's my new boss. He's the 45th President of the United States, and we are here with two of his favorites, Victoria Tunsing, Joe DeGenova, and don't forget his other favorite, great supporter of the show, Mike Lindell, an amazing patriot, the inventor of My Pillow. If you haven't done so already, please try out his pillow, the only pillow that doesn't get hot, doesn't lose its shape. The president uses them, so do I.
And no
51
way
million sold. They're so good. And if you
endorsing
drop my
any of
name with
this,
Mike, he'll give you up to
just the
50%
president.
off his incredible products at mypillow.com. You can call 800-829-8468, 800-829-8468, mypillow.com, promo code GORKA. Let's lighten up for a little short segment, Joe and Victoria. Talk to us about 2020, and in many cases, this year is a referendum about stupidity, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
In every sense.
Describe this year. I mean, you've been around the block a few times when it comes to the swamp. How does this compare to prior years?
Pretty amazing when you think we come out of an impeachment.
Which was just February. Just
February. And we get into this amazing. Then we have the pandemic, which I think the president has handled magnificently, especially with the ban on travel from China and from Europe, all against the wishes of the so-called intelligentsia in the medical community, who turned out to be total idiots, and really a lot of hacks in the medical community, especially at the CDC.
You mean the ones who said that 2 million people would die?
Yeah, 2 million people. And they give him these projections. And if he did listen to the scientists, they said 2 million people were going to die. He didn't make that number up. They gave it to him. And then they were totally wrong, all the wrong assumptions.
But he's figured it out, because you can tell that he's not listening to St. Anthony Fauci anymore. He is,
Yeah.
because you just have to get some reason in there. His personality, it's so interesting, the difference between the conservative personality, which is, okay, how are we going to make it work? How can we open everything up and make it work?
And the businessman. It's a businessman's
and
attitude.
you match that against the stupidity of people like Pelosi and Schiff, their arrogance, their mendacity, Jerry Nadler. We're going to pack the court if you confirm this nominee. Can you imagine Peter Rodino saying anything like that back in the 1970s?
So it is worse. We're not senile like Biden.
No.
It is worse than it was before.
The Democratic Party
really
is a monster.
laughing. I think it's scary.
No,
I think it's quite frightening. And of course, the tone of privilege Nancy Pelosi wants everyone to wear a mask, and I don't know how much she has spent. We should really look into it.
On the scarves.
On all her little masks that match every single outfit. But there she is getting her hair dyed. It's dyed. It wasn't a shampoo. All you guys out there who don't know.
There was a setup, though. She was set up.
She was set
By the
up.
salon
And it
owner.
went away. And
It was the Russians.
It went away.
It was the Russians.
You know who did it? It was Luca. Luca set her up just before he got killed at the bar.
You have your inside
Luca
sources.
set her up.
But
So 2020 is different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think it's frightening.
Yeah,
I don't
scary.
The fact that the media is so much a part of this.
That
and
is the
there's not
biggest.
much-
That's the biggest thing of all. That the media is now totally gone. We do not have journalism in America any longer. We have propaganda.
When you see the Washington Post say that Mike Flynn pled guilty twice, so he
Okay.
should be.
You ready? You ready?
Please.
Listen to this headline for Scalia when he died. Supreme Court conservative dismayed liberals. That's the headline in the Washington Post. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a pioneer devoted to equality. Can you imagine a Supreme Court conservative dismayed liberals? That's the headline.
But Joe,
and
that's not the remarkable thing. The remarkable thing is they haven't changed in the last 4 years.
oh no,
There's been no moment of clarity.
No, they've
where
gotten worse.
They've gotten
They're never
worse.
If you talk to some of the people that we used to talk to at the Post and listen to them now, you are talking to automatons now. They are reflexively nutty. They don't think anymore at the Washington Post. They just make stuff up and print it. The president is correct.
It's like the cancel culture. It's almost like Fox News and George Soros. That's a tease.
Now, when this story came out, the president, quote, said bad things about the military. You know what? The owner of the Atlanta who published that is a huge donor of the Democrat Party. Imagine that.
Oh,
Can't
I
mention
see what you
Georgia.
did there.
Can't
That was
mention-
very sneaky.
can't
You
mention-
should come on
can't-
radio more often.
Can't mention Georgie Boy
You-
at Fox News because of his relationship with Suzanne Scott, the head of Fox.
Voldemort's name has been mentioned by Victoria.
Yes.
Media Matters, are you ready? Come on, rev up the typewriter because we're going to give you stuff to write about. Oh, are we going to give you stuff to write about? It's so much fun. It's so easy with this pair, Joe DeGenova, Victoria Tunsing. Follow them at Vic Tunsing, Toensing. We love them. You love them. They're the best. We are broadcasting from the ReliefFactor.com studios.
Let me tell you why I'm not going to answer that question. Because it will shift all the focus. That's what he wants. He never wants to talk about the issue at hand. He always
This
tries
is
to
something we're
change the
probably
subject.
going to see tonight.
Let's say I answer that question. Then the whole debate's going to be, well, Biden said or didn't say. Biden said he would or wouldn't. That's going to, the discussion should be about why he is moving in a direction that's totally inconsistent with what the founders wanted.
The question should be, why is Joe Biden wearing a mask on a Zoom call? I'm just curious. Is he afraid of catching something through the TV screen? These are the big questions of the day. But of course, he won't answer the one about whether or not he wants to expand the Supreme Court, because it's not like he's running for president or anything. If you want to find out about Joe Biden's creeping socialism or the overt socialism of Bernie Sanders, both of which have infected today's Democrat Party, I have something for you. It's Dinesh D'Souza's latest movie. It's called Trump Card. It has just been released. You can stream it. You can order the DVD at watchtrumpcard.com. Prepare yourself for the battle of the ages, the most consequential election in our republic since 1860. Check it out today. You do not want every Dinesh D'Souza film is a knockout, and this is his latest. Go to watchtrumpcard.com. That's watchtrumpcard.com. We are back with the irrepressible Victoria Tunsing and Joe DeGenova. You always will get record viewings on these segments when we post them on YouTube. And now we're going to try and break those records. Media Matters, have you warmed up the mimeograph? Are you ready? Are you clicking and clacking away? Because we will discuss the George Soros question. So we played the strange video with the former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, who mentioned George Soros's funding of various campaigns at the local level on Fox News.
There's a lot of things Soros has got his hands into.
Harris Faulkner, Melissa Francis, and Maria Harf shut down one of the brightest guys in America today. Rudely said, we don't need to talk about this now. Well, let's talk about it. Now, let me just throw some facts out for you. This is from an individual I've followed on Twitter for some years now. He's now writing for The Federalist, which is impressive. This is Robbie Starbuck. Robbie Starbuck
great stuff.
Has just listed the monies that George Soros' organizations have spent recently in America. It's a long list. I'll just give you a couple. $2 million. $2 million in Cook County, Illinois.
For those just joining, this is just kind of a warm-up before the debate is on, and I shall click over to that and let everybody grab your popcorn, get your drink. Let's have some fun.
To get Kim Foxx elected. The same Kim Foxx who was involved with the
Jesse Smollett.
Jesse Smollett, exactly. $1.4 million to fund state attorney campaign for Aramis Ayala in Florida. $1.1 million to fund Jake Lilly's run to become the DA of Jefferson County in Colorado. $0.9 million for Joe Gonzalez to become the DA of Bexar County in Texas. And then I'll stop here. $500,000 for Parissa Degani Tafti to become Arlington County Commonwealth Attorney. So why are we not allowed to talk about these things, Joe and Victoria?
Oh, they said it wasn't true. I mean, so let me just say, when Harris Faulkner the next day, and I'm really sad because I've been a fan of hers, when she said something about it the next day, because she had to address it, it was all over everything.
Right.
She's called it an incident.
Yes.
She did not apologize to Newt. She said, we had an incident, and we actually really all like to talk about all our food.
And she didn't correct
and she didn't do a correction.
She didn't correct the record because Marie Harf said that's not true after Newt said he funded 27 local DAs. Marie Harf lied on television, and everybody at Fox knew she was lying. They didn't correct her. They didn't correct the record the next day. Let me just tell you something. Fox fears Soros. I don't know what it is. I don't know what George Soros has on Suzanne Scott, the head of Fox, but the bottom line is this. That network is compromised when it comes to Soros. Now, Tucker Carlson takes him on and went after him last night and just blasted him. And apparently Tucker's strong enough that he can do it. But there are other nighttime hosts who will not touch Soros, and they've been told not to. I don't know why they won't do it. It's unbelievable.
And one of the prosecutors that Soros funded, I don't know what the amount is Kim Gardner in St. Louis, Missouri.
Yes.
Now, Kim Gardner framed a Republican governor and then had
Eric Greitens.
And she's the one, she will not indict the rioters who came to the McCloskey's house, but she's indicted the McCloskeys who defended their house.
Now, and here's the thing that people have to understand.
Hold on. Don't forget, Kim Gardner was given, when she was in a re-election bid for St. Louis Circuit Attorney before she became a DA, $116,000 by Soros.
Now, here's the thing. In all of those races, most of the candidates all over the country spend at most $100,000.
Yeah.
When you jump $1 million into a local DA's race, it's over.
You bought it.
So Soros is buying 27 DA's office, and for one reason. He wants chaos. He wants the rule of law undercut. He wants crimes committed. He wants people not to go to prison. He wants
cash bail.
He wants no cash bail. He's trying to create chaos. And the Democrats never say a word about it. Even in those cities, in other cities, nothing.
And guess where else he's doing it? In Ukraine. We don't have to go there, but just so people know.
Can we just do what the president does, devoid of politics, and just say, give the guy kudos? This is genius.
When
he understands that all politics is local, and he's buying it.
Yeah, and nobody's doing anything about it. And Fox won't let people talk about it. Now,
because it's not happening.
What in the world is wrong with the management of Fox and their news division? Yeah. Remember, their news division is part of this cabal.
Now, when it comes to Faulkner, I hope when the time comes she leaves, she will set the record straight. Because then she's free to talk about it.
You have to read the comments on social media, Victoria.
Yeah, I get them all the time. Most of the time they say things like, well, that's another reason to stop watching Fox.
I mean, you just have to watch Chris Wallace on Sunday and you know where they're headed. I mean, the guy's a maniac.
And he's going to be officiating a week from today. The topic areas have. Since when is it, why is it a news item that Chris Wallace has released his topics for the questions? Sorry, are we voting for Chris Wallace?
He's a personality, don't you know?
Oh, sorry.
Because he promotes his wife's cookbooks.
Is he a newsmaker?
He promotes his wife's cookbooks on Fox News.
I don't know why the president, you probably know better, why he agreed to do an interview with Chris Wallace, because it's one of the worst interviews I've ever seen, in that he corrected the president
after the interview. He went back to his studio,
and then they refilmed
I've never
it.
ever seen that done before.
It's against the basic rules of journalism. Yeah. They are killing the goose that lays repeatedly the golden egg. We will find out why. We are talking to Victoria Tunsing, Joe DeGenova here on America First on the Salem Radio Network.
Hey everybody, stop clicking around. I am in the woods with some water going in the background near my...
Portions of America First are brought to you in part by Trump Card.
Why is a Raymond luxury yacht actually pronounced Throat Warbler Mangrove? Ask the Pythons of Monty Python fame. And also, why is Bexar County, San Antonio, Texas, pronounced Bear? Don't ask me, I'm just a dumb immigrant. But thanks for the correction. Whoever called in, whoever texted Shadrach, okay, we get it. Bexar, B-E-X-A-R, is pronounced Bear. You live and learn. We are back with Joe DeGenova and Victoria Tunsing. The last couple of minutes, just far too much fun. We've got to do this every week. We've got 41 days to go. What is your advice to everybody listening and watching across the nation?
Vote early in person.
In person early?
Oh, yes. But there's been this issue of whether there should be a confirmation hearing for the nominee. There absolutely must be a confirmation hearing, because the public needs to know who this person is and get to know the person, as Brett Kavanaugh won out, because people saw
got to know him, his family.
This nice person can't be doing all these bad things, and the accusations are going to come, whoever it is, and they're going to be out there from every Democrat who's talking. So get the person out there and get everyone.
And make the Democrats make the accusations on tape, on camera, and
before an election,
to show how evil these Democrats are, how bigoted they are, how anti-Catholic they are, how anti-Christian they are.
So you served on the Capitol Hill in the intelligence world, Victoria. Joe, you've been a U.S. attorney in the swamp. You've been an independent counsel. In the last 90 seconds we have, how consequential is this election?
Oh, this is as I said, this is the big casino. This is the future of the court for 40 years. If they get this nominee on, and Trump is reelected as part of that, he will get probably another nominee for the court.
And then
because Breyer's not going to stick around.
And then they can't change the Electoral College. They can't pack the court. They can't.
Well, they can't change the Electoral College because that's Constitution. But I can't see 30-some states voting to give
Congress.
Yeah,
New York.
But in addition, the litigation over this election will have to go to the Supreme Court.
This is the most important thing.
And so we will have a full panel of pro-conservative justices.
You, Victoria, how important is this election in your experience?
Well, as someone said, since 1860.
Since 1860. All right, guys, you heard it here from two of the best who have an intimate knowledge of the cupidity, of the moral turpitude of... Oh, where did that come from? of the city in which we broadcast from. It's up to us. It's very simply up to us. Do your part. Wake up every morning. Ask yourself, what can you do for the president? What can you do to make America great again? At the end of the day, ask yourself, did you do it? Go to donaldjtrump.com. Volunteer today. Go to trumpvictory.com and even make calls for the president. People text me every day. They're doing it half an hour a day. You are making a difference. It's trumptalk.gop. God bless both of you. Thank you for being in studio. I'm Sebastian Gorka, back with Sarah Carter and Lord Conrad Black and you.
See, I thought that was really an interesting... No, I'm not going to watch that. A very interesting interview. Even though it was still a couple weeks back, it was quite intriguing.
Right this moment, there is a mad rush in America. Apple, Amazon, Facebook doesn't.
Enough of that. All right. So when he is correct, what can you do for the president? Go to, on your mobile, there is a Trump app, and it should be allowing you to show different workshops that are available, hopefully in your state, because you can also go to Donald Trump official website for president, and it will give you a whole bunch of other stuff as well. We need to continue to do this all the time. When it comes time to really put your nose to the grindstone, and it is time, because we don't have that much longer to go. It's going to come by fast, and we need to get out there. We need to volunteer. We need to be a poll watcher. We need the donations. We need people to make phone calls, flyers. Make sure you do that for your local senator and Congress people, GOP who are running. We have to get them as well. It's still very important. We got to get this House back. We got to keep the Senate. Otherwise, the president will be a lame duck, and we sure don't want that. We want the continuous winning that he has done for a long time. And this has just come up. It's live on C-SPAN. It's live where I got it. So when you think about it, do the best you can. Don't make people angry. Slowly red pill them. Show them tell them, is your life better than it was prior? It is still very important to make people realize we're coming out of wars. We're bringing troops home. We're making peace agreements we haven't done in years. We are getting tax breaks. We are getting jobs created and getting more jobs as well for the blue collar people. We must make people aware. Do what you have to do. Become a broadcaster. Do little scopes. Do big scopes. Whatever. We all need to get busy, no matter how it is. Make memes. Make gifts. It doesn't matter. It gets the word out. We have to show our support. If you have noticed, especially when it comes to rallies or peaceful protests, how happy he is because he feels the love that we give him, and he gives that back to us on just his personality and the hard work that he has done. You know what I'm talking about? Y'all should know. What is wrong with the people who hate is a very good question, because they should have absolutely no reason to hate what this president has done. He is working for them as well. I've said it before, and I will say it again. This is what he does. He wants every single American out there to have a better life. But you have people like Omar and people in, I think it was Jersey, possibly New York. I'm not sure about the states, Wisconsin, where they're harvesting ballots. They're paying people to vote for Sleepy Joe. Joe's barely been on the damn campaign trail. How the hell do they think he's going to win? He's not. And I do agree with the theory that it could be not only to put the money into the Senate races and the Congress and wait until 2024, which I'm still hoping Don Jr. will run. He is a lot like his dad. He's got the fight. He's got the energy. And I think he could really do it. If we're waiting for Cindy Cortez here now, that's bad. There's no way she could ever even get in this race or, God forbid, win another race. I don't know the races, what they're going through in New York as far as her. But I think people are dumb enough to vote for her because they're not really paying attention. Is it helping New York? Is it helping Broadway? No. Is de Blasio helping Broadway? No. Cuomo? No. Has people died in nursing homes? Yes, because of Cuomo. And now he's trying to say, oh, well, wait, you can't have the data yet because this can take a while. Bullshit. It is all bullshit, and they know it. They know the game, and this president will not play the game, nor will Barr. Barr is already on the job to get information and investigate what Omar is doing as far as ballot harvesting and others, because we have heard that they're found in ditches, they've been thrown away, they've been dumped behind salons, and of course harvesting. So when people see or know about this, please tell somebody, let somebody know, find out who to contact, FBI, whatever. Do it. It's really important. We cannot have our republic screwed over by people who want to do nothing but cheat. It is just not gonna happen. Now, a lot of people are saying that there's going to be unrest after the election, no matter who wins. Well, as conservatives, we know what's right and wrong. We know that we should or should not do. But the left are very, and this has been overused as well, as brainwashed. They are brainwashed, like saying Joe Biden is the presidential candidate. No, it isn't. It's Kamala Harris. That's who's running. I mean, just look at what Joe Biden has done. Nothing. He's in serious trouble when it comes to the Ukraine and China. In fact, there's been for at least a year, tapes have been released that between him and the Ukraine president discussing the dismissal of the Ukraine prosecutor. Now, that prosecutor was actually doing his job. And then they reformed Obama and the Ukraine prime minister to do their own security type agency, FBI, if you will.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If I could ask everyone to take their seat, please.
It's just an announcer. So when it comes to that, they're going to have a lot of questions. I will.
My name is Janet Brown. I'm Executive Director of the Commission on Presidential Debates, and I'd like to welcome you to the first presidential debate of 2020. There are a lot of people who have made extraordinary contributions to making this evening possible. And in a few moments, you will hear from two of our co-chairs to start the appreciation to those who have helped. Our third co-chair, Dot Ridings, is in Louisville, Kentucky tonight. Her leadership in debates goes back to 1976 and includes the presidency of the League of Women Voters. The CPD is the beneficiary of 33 years worth of people who have been willing to put their name on our work. To all of those former presidents and chancellors of debate sites, to former moderators, to members of our Debates International Network who have set their clocks to 3 a.m. tomorrow morning to tune in live. We thank you with all our hearts. In 1987, Paul Kirk and Frank Fahrenkopf co-founded the CPD. I'd like to introduce the co-chair, Frank Fahrenkopf, and his colleague are also our co-chair, Ken Wallach, to start this part of the program.
These are just chairman.
Thank you, Janet, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Health Education Campus, Case Western Reserve, and the Cleveland Clinic. And if you have not had the opportunity yet to go around and see this fantastic facility, you really should. It's just a great tribute to everyone who's been involved with it.
With them speaking about their university, I will keep this on the screen until the candidates are out and ready to begin. This is really going to be a very interesting debate. There's 3 debates for those new to politics, and there are plenty of them. So the rumor is that something mentally is wrong with Joe. That's quite obvious. But what? Does he have Alzheimer's? A lot of people do, and I do agree with a lot of people. I would like to say that this is elderly abuse. Joe Biden has no business being up there. You know, we can poke fun at it. He does do ridiculous things, but question is it an act? Is it an actual mental illness? If it's a real mental illness, that's elderly abuse. And whomever said he is going to be the candidate ought to be good talking to, because you have kind of a sympathy part, and you just can't stand his guts because of what he's done over the years. He's screwed over the American people. He has said he wants to raise taxes, and he's been very blunt about that. So the question is, if he has Alzheimer's, it will become very apparent over the months and years. Well, he will probably disappear when he loses. I should correct myself, because when you have Alzheimer's, for those not aware, I know it personally who's had it. You really can be a real danger to yourself. So it's going to be quite intriguing if we finally, and if we ever, get any medical history for this guy. Because, as I said before, he's got something going on his hand, and he's got little marks on his head. Some people are saying that he's had like plastic surgery. I cannot confirm or deny that. I'm sure the Democrats are going crazy because they're not, quote, social distancing. So that's just tough titty wampus. They're going to have to deal with it. Somebody had a tweet said that Joe Biden wanted a virtual debate. If that ain't a joke in itself. Let's see what this gentleman is saying.
So thanks. Now I'd like to introduce the newest member of the leadership team, Ken Wallach, who for 25 years ran the National Democratic Institute of International Affairs, NDI, and we're really excited to have him join us.
Democrat, imagine that. At a university? Get out of here. Most of them are Democrats. That's why our universities are so screwed up. It's going to be quite intriguing. I'm going to suggest we watch Joe. Watch his body language, his demeanor. That's how you're going to be able to really tell on his condition. It will be starting very shortly, because you can tell a lot about somebody's body language. Nervous, scared, confused, obviously, is quite easy. He seems to like to pivot when confronted with a question that he doesn't like. He pivots and says, well, why don't you talk about so-and-so? He's done it before, and he recently has done it because they were talking about Hunter. Now, Hunter's in some serious shit trouble as well. So he will pivot and say, well, let's blame Trump, right? That's a good thing to watch for in this debate. We all know the president's demeanor. He's a pretty cool guy. He's very focused. And you just watch him too. Watch him real close as well, because you can tell he is listening to every single word that is being spoke. He did that with Hillary especially. You watch that debate, even though he was pacing, I still think that was kind of a tactic, if you will, because it probably would have thrown her off. But it's all good. Romney tried it, and he looked like a total douche. If you remember that debate, Obama was talking, he would get up and wanted to speak and kind of look kind of anxious. So he was not a very good debater. And he missed a lot of questions, especially when it was came into Russia. And Obama really lied his ass off when he said Russia was not a geopolitical threat. They are a threat to a degree. You can't focus everything on Russia. A lot of it's China that has been stealing our technology and, of course, meddling in our elections as well. Funny how even in the past, you don't hear how China has meddled in our affairs. You only hear the word Russia. But Russia was like a favorite target, especially for Hillary. Hillary is quoted as saying she wanted a literally a war with them. We would have been in a war 3 years ago if that was the other way. This president gets us out of wars. He is very positive. He's very humorous. I mean, a lot of the left, in fact, most of the left does not understand his jokes whatsoever. This should be starting about 10 minutes. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Everybody who watches the replay, thank you as well. Please join on Twitter, DLive, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Periscope. I do appreciate all of you for joining. This is a very entertaining debate as well as a very important one. It is just, I mean, this is what how do you want to say, you build up all year at the near an end of a presidential run, and the excitement is there. And this is the climax because it's getting there. We're so close, and it's kind of like, oh, can't wait. A lot of people are very excited. We've been energized. The whole Trump nation has been energized, and it's energized some of the left who don't really like the tactics that the left has been doing, supporting Antifa. You have Chaz. You have many other folks that have been causing a lot of problems. But right now, BLM, Antifa are the main ones. Soros has been, but he's been very quiet because Antifa and Black Lives Matter have been out in the spotlight, which they have been funded by Soros. You would think if a man had that much money, he would enjoy life instead of destroying dreams. Our president has been amazing for 3 years. Let's get him back in there for 4 more. He will make this country even better. What does he say now? Let's make America great again, which is still a good one. But we still have Keep America Great theme. He doesn't say it as much, but that's okay. He's the president. He can do what he wishes, right? Something's wrong with Susan Scott's Wikipedia page. Unusual text on there. I don't know who that is. Wikipedia has been known to change wording to their will and not what they are. Aussie, who is Susan? Who is that? Fox News is now prejudice. I noticed moving black people out and putting your people in. I'm not going to watch Fox News 5 anymore. I do not watch Fox either. I will watch Hannity, Judge Jeanine, Tucker, and Gutfeld. That's about it. After the former CEO had passed away, it's really gone to shit. And then you have the Murdoch boys, which I've said many times. Here's Chris Wallace. And hold on a minute, please. Something happened. I will get this back in a minute. Oh, you're very welcome. Why is there no sound? Okay, hold on a second, please. Where'd my sound go? It really is, and they have... Okay, let me see for a minute. Bring it back here. Let me do something real quick. I'll restart this. Nothing should have went wrong. Okay. Restart. Oh, lovely.
Officials, DOJ officials knowingly work with...
That's got to be them. Okay. That worked. I seen the meter. For some reason, I don't know why, it may be the station, which is highly irregular. I just tried a different station. Let me try it again.
Suspected Russian spy. And
Can you
even
hear
the
that?
Russian spy was telling them, you can't believe it.
Okay, I will put... There we go. Back to this. Should be starting any minute. Very exciting. I'm glad that got fixed. It was a station, actually. They were being secretive. Just waiting for the candidates to come out on the stage. As I was telling Aussie, Wikipedia does have a tendency to rewrite things in a different way than they are. They're not very forthcoming. So it's quite interesting. I noticed there's a monitor behind the two podiums there. That must be for Wallace. Let's see if he can be professional today. Oh, you're very welcome. I'm very happy you enjoy this. I appreciate all of you watching. Please join DLive, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and of course Periscope. Hopefully Chris will be fair. I know when it comes to the other networks, they won't be very kind to the president. They never are. I wonder how many Nerf ball questions they're going to send Joe, because Joe may not be able to be coherent enough to understand what's going on. Looks like a fairly nice crowd. I do notice they are apart some ways. Whatever floats the boat, eh? Here we go, folks. Main event. It's coming up. Now, Biden wanted every 15 minutes to a half an hour to go take a break. Trump does not need a break. He is like the energy bunny.
Good evening from the Health Education campus of Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debates between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The Commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments, with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to these rules. For the record, I decided the topics and the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the commission or the two candidates. This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic, which is serving as the health security advisor to the commission for all 4 debates. As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can focus on what the candidates have to say. No noise except right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
How you doing, man? How are you? I'm well.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight: why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way. In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time, even if we did it after the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this. Looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Jim.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court. And the justice, and I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person. But she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be held pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February. All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
during
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years. And the 100 million people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialist.
Go
You're
ahead.
going to socialist medicine.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your party
is-
has said.
that is simply
your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party
That is
wants to
simply-
go socialist
My
medicine.
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act? And
Joe, you've had
pre-existing
308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which
no,
was heavily
Mr. President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr.
You're
President,
talking about 2 million people.
Mr. President, as a moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is all
You don't
ready.
know it's date, which was a
That
big
is not a
chunk of
comprehensive
Obama. That
plan.
is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst
I
part of
didn't ask
Obama.
you, sir.
Chris,
You're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part
me.
of Obama.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe. The individual
no,
mandate was the most unpopular
Mr. Vice Pre-
aspect of
Mr.
Obamacare. I
President,
got rid of it.
I'd like you
and we
to,
will protect
Mr.
people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer.
Go ahead.
You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
All right. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something, that there's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against big pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care.
What about
All of the
pre-existing
things that
conditions?
we've done,
He has not cut
insulin. I
healthcare.
give you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people because I'm getting it for so cheap It's like water. You want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs that what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because they pay just a tiny fraction.
As I say, this is open discussion.
No,
let me
but
ask
this
you
is
about,
big.
let me,
This
you'll
is
be happy,
big stuff,
sir. You'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare, and
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
well, I can ask you the question. It will
Not what
end.
your party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option. Number one.
Joe, you
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie Sanders, who's far left, on the manifesto,
When
we
you-
call it.
when
And that gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you saying
I'm
you
not going
didn't
to
agree?
listen to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm
Not by
here
much.
standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left
Well,
2
I
days
tell
early.
you,
You would have lost every primary.
all he knows how to
on
do
Super
is hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to
With
make
what?
sure because here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree.
want to
Hey,
make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
He doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be surprised.
you picked
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Joe.
guy, the
Go,
wrong
Joe,
night at
go.
the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let him.
There is no manifesto. Number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
absolutely agreed
folks, do you have
to,
any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
Do you
Mr.
have any
President.
do?
socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well,
President.
I tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care because
Bernie?
because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two, there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give
Number
them better
three.
health care at a much lower price
But-
because
and by the way,
Obamacare
he doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
Gentlemen, you
is
realize
no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is, and that destroyed. That they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people. Okay? I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
and I
known
just had a meeting with them. They said the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive.
I got you.
Premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
people- that's
So
what his people
we
said.
do want to
No,
get
no,
rid of it.
It's
Chris,
an
we
open
want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
give
it, sir,
something
but I have
that's
to. I
cheaper
have to
and
give
better.
you roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care. Of
course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right.
He's
I have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court.
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you going to pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question is the
Supreme Court justice, radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so
list?
Right, gentlemen, I think
this
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
I'm not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject. So let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out back in March exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to you.
You have 2 minutes, sir.
If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000. And one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country. Wait a minute.
It's his 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you
done.
didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was no
very-
economic recession.
Sir, you made a
There was,
far
there
less
was no
lethal
recession.
disease.
you made a point. Let him answer.
And there was no one. We didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding the phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
people?
Far
That is-
more people.
And
You would have been
And by the way,
months late.
your own
You were
his
months behind me,
his
Joe.
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
& Johnson, Pfizer?
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen,
and
let me move on to questions about the future because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call
So
them
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what I
that
call
the
them.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He
Dr.
said it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking about
after
when it's
that.
generally available. not when it
Well,
will
we're
be.
going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
this is
delivering
the same man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically,
That was
you
him-
know that.
I
That was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up, though.
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't, or
knows.
Senator
And-
Harris is saying
no,
you can't trust the scientists.
No. You can't trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not They're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
and
scientists
Fauci,
that are in
by
charge.
the way,
they will have
and
the vaccine very soon.
Let him finish.
Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done nothing.
Let's have this debate.
And if
We'll
you
see
would have
who's
had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
if you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
See,
and
We're
it's
going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay.
Look forward to talking.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to Nancy Pelosi. And Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with him in the Senate. And he sits on his golf course. And I mean, literally, think about it.
You probably play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants to shut down this country, and I want to keep it open. And we
You
did
ju-
a great
he just
thing by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd.
I want to move on to another
because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to another
thing.
subject.
But those states are not doing well that are shut down
Which is
right
gotta
now.
respond to that.
Wants to
President
shut down
Trump,
the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are
of
okay.
of
You have to
masks?
understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on it, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say this.
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The Congress.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite. They've
And
also said
no serious person said the opposite.
They've
No
also said, well, look
serious.
at Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the
He
opposite.
did not
I
say
want to
the
ask you, we
opposite.
got a
said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly,
minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks are good. I'm
wanna
okay
ask-
with masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both
masks.
about one last subject because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people.
Outside.
Outside, yes, sir. Agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
Because nobody will show up.
people with
Well, it's true. Nobody shows up to his rally.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You goes first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you not
I've done
worried
a great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
and
not
hangars,
worried about
and we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issue,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
sir.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect. And we've had 40,000
All right.
people
You wanna
at any of these rallies.
Just quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encourage them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the
cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening at some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's his two. Yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines. those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools, why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right. Your time is up, sir. We are going to get to...
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open. I'm the one that brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And the people of Ohio are very proud of me. And you know how I found out? When he took the phony
we're going to
ad.
get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers. I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax
1 year.
returns.
I went, you'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under-leveraged because the assets are extremely good. And I built
Sir,
a great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific question, which
But
is...
let me tell you.
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand
return.
all of that.
But
No, Mr. President,
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750.
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it. And you'll get to see it. But let me just tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits, like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher on the money a school teacher makes, is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you weren't president. Because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing, including
Gentlemen,
fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of your vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan if you were to be
Yes,
elected
ma'am.
president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what is the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make this federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But respectfully, sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
Billions
before
of
when you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was
That's right.
your
I got
tax
it-
proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed
And,
like it's never boomed.
The economy is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Let me finish.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for American people.
Let me.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty of companies that are already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look, we inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
booming.
Blew it. It wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery since 1929.
Is it fair to say he blew it when fact there was when there was record low unemployment before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in a hole.
Excuse me,
one.
Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you're on number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would take a miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing. Part of my standard fare.
I'm the guy that brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
industry. All right, we brought back. I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having.
And they didn't come in with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. He talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
Takes
with Mexico.
Your lunch, down 18%. China ate your lunch, Joe, and
but-
no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars. Takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also, while we're at it, why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million. What did he do to deserve it? What did he do with Burisma to deserve $183,000?
None of
asked
that
a question,
is true.
let him answer.
None of that is true.
Oh, really? He didn't get
No,
$3.5 million?
Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally,
President, please.
totally
ask a question.
discredited. totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he didn't get
No, no.
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5 million.
President,
that is not true.
Oh, really?
Mr.
Oh,
President,
but Mr.
it's an open discussion, please.
Now,
It's a fact.
Well,
It
you
is
have
not
raised
a
an
fact.
issue. Let the
It's been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President,
no
my
job?
son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he
and
did.
Mr.
the only
President,
guy that
let
did
him
something-
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
By who?
And
The media?
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies,
talk
by the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited. Matter
Dude,
of fact,
Mr.
even the
President,
people who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me
Under
ask you
oath.
this,
Under-
Joe.
under
No, no,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to
Even the
you.
people under
He got $3.5
he
million from
testified-
Moscow.
He testified under oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I
really?
did it
I'd like to
honorably.
know who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
Some people don't
Well,
do a good
here's
job. With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say-
You get
here's
the
the
wait a
deal.
minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
tell you,
No. I'm
No.
Mr. President.
$3.5
I'm Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
That is simply
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million
It
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already
family,
No, let him-
my family
already
lost
wrote-
a fortune by
Go
coming down
ahead.
and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's
Every-
such a
they're right
Go
here.
ahead, Mr.
That's
President.
such a
Every
great.
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
President.
my
coming and
family or
helping
his
us with
family. It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't
American
collect
people.
$3.5 million
He doesn't. That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
Then you
here.
should
All right,
Not
that's the end
about
of
here.
that's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a very-
President,
but Chris,
no,
can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No,
He
I
stood
get it.
up.
No,
he stood up.
the answer to
and
the
he
question is
threatened
no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion,
Sir,
if you don't
that
get rid
is
of the
absolutely
you know what, you're-
not
stop.
You're on
true.
tape
You're-
doing it.
you're gonna
You're on
have-
tape.
True.
Gentlemen, I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but
on
it seems
tape.
to be, why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the
Got a
deal.
good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less
there's
than
plenty.
No, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for Black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president has ever said anything like that.
It is who's
now,
who
second,
in it, sir.
Second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is the savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So,
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
he
racism?
did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir. It's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that, because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it, but we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right,
what is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of a town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place, and you say peaceful protest? No, it's not, but you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the issue of race. I promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody
what
else.
Is radical,
and he would know.
What is radical
totally
about
racist.
racial sensitivity training?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place. It's a racist place. And they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
You just don't.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this.
don't
than he
know.
does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important that people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson. You go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but
Lord.
the reason is that the Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are you in
it, and a little
favor
bit
of law and order? Go
Yes,
ahead,
I'm
say it.
You asked a question, let him finish.
Law and order.
loses
Law and order.
Let him
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more
he
in
had,
ours.
All right, we're
He
down.
is President of the United States of America.
Mr. President,
every record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because
And the
we're now going to
places
talk about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's
and
exactly
those
my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime. It is
cities.
crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would run our
it
suburbs
the
would
way-
be gone. By the way, our suburbs would be gone. And you would see problems like you've
He
never
would
seen.
know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
I was
better.
raised.
Go ahead. Wait a minute.
I was
So much
raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles and racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and/or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means.
Let me if I might finish the question, what does reimagining policing mean? And do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding in his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what they're talking about, Chris. That's not what they're talking about. He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law support.
Look,
he has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
Look.
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead. Think. We have time.
We don't have time to do anything.
No, think
All
about it. Name one law enforcement group that came out and supported
I think, gentlemen,
you.
I think I'm going to take back the
There
moderator's
aren't. I don't
role,
think there are any.
and I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is, as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it.
But you've never called for the people, the leader. Excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to bring in the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Here's
the thing.
I sent in the U.S. Marshals to get the killer of the young man in the middle of the street, and they shot him. And for 3 days,
President Trump,
Portland wouldn't do anything. I had to send in the U.S. Marshals, and they took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, his own former spokesperson said, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that. And so here's the here's the point.
Go ahead,
the point is that's what he keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly, and every single solitary time.
And to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly criticized.
I have to answer his statement.
No, you have
His
repeatedly.
statement. Wait,
you have
just 1 second.
you've been talking
You
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to end it.
Sir.
I would love to end it. and
You know,
we
if you
would
want to
very-
switch seats,
we would very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd send in the National Guard. It would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But they don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do
specifically
that, but
do it?
Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say
sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right
So
wing.
what are you
If
saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists
Who
and
would
right
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not militia. That's what his
It's an idea.
FBI his FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well, then you know what?
We're done, sir.
Everybody,
we're moving on to the next. We're
Everybody
moving.
gives you advice in your administration.
That's not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is bad.
administration tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump and
you ought to be
Biden
careful
records.
with them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president. You can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges. It's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head-to-head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got $3.5 million.
And by the way, my son...
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word.
No, I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot And the people left behind there
really?
were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know, Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter
you know,
got
Bo.
thrown. Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
for
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use, and he didn't have a job until you became vice president. Once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made
son-
a fortune,
My son,
and he didn't have a job.
my son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it. And I'm proud of him.
But why was
I'm
he
proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All
of
right, but
dollars?
he wasn't given
All right,
tens of millions of
he was
dollars.
given
That
tens
is
of
totally,
millions of
that's
dollars.
totally
President Trump,
discredited.
we've already been through.
Totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make
I know,
a
but when
judgment
somebody
call here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay, great.
from the
Let's
mayor
talk
of
about-
Moscow,
let's talk
That is
about-
not
I think
true.
it's a terrible
That
thing.
report is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
you know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very
Do you
exciting
believe
for a lot of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of
I
this
think
planet?
a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they live their forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground. That's burning down because of a lack of
But,
management.
sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car. And you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
But in the case of
$3,500.
California, they've simply
No, but you
ignored
would take
your-
a lot of
your
cars
rollback.
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And and I'm okay with electric cars too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just
All right.
crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability of us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that in fact is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is a guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
He's talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings and rebuild the building.
No,
it's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows too. That's not true either, right? This is a $100 trillion. Look, that's more money than our country could make in 100 years if we're
not
going
the case.
All right, let me
destroy our
because
country.
I actually wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy efficient homes. So the question becomes: the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do, it's going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good paying jobs.
Let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that.
$100 billion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good paying jobs, and these tax incentives for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that.
That's
at all.
He did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up.
We are going to be in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. That didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is
not
not
$20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
the Green
well,
New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is
building.
not my plan.
You want to rebuild every.
If he knew anything about, if he knew anything
he made a
about,
statement about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
what
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said
this segment.
he called
Mr.
the military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He said
Mr.
stupid
Please,
bastards. He
sir,
said it.
stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that.
Play
Stop.
it. Play it.
Go ahead.
You're
Mr.
on
Vice
tape.
President answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your environmental
Green New
changes
Deal,
will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
You support?
No, I don't support the Green New Deal.
You don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just lost the radical left.
I
Gun.
support
you
the
don't.
Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment, election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks? Because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com. Decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? Or you get 4 more years of these lies.
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that, because we caught you in a sense, and President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that.
Sir,
all run by Democrats.
2 minutes is 2 minutes.
All run by Democrats. It's
President Trump.
It's a rigged election.
You're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them. We don't like them. We don't like them.
But what are you going to do about it? There are millions of ballots going out right now.
What you do is you go and vote. You do a solicited ballot, and that's okay, or you go and vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people
you go and vote. You go and vote
like they used to in the old
millions
of people.
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country. This is not going to end well.
There is no
this is not going to end well.
5 states have had mail-in ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because
you're wrong. You're wrong.
I want to continue with you on this, Vice President Biden.
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes a statement like that.
Excuse me, Vice President Biden. The biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you have 80 million ballots,
gentlemen, I have a final
Senate
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already
all right.
there's been
so now,
fraud.
Mail service delivers
wait a minute, gentlemen. In the final question is, in 8
ballots.
states, we can keep talking.
It's
in 8 states, election workers are prohibited currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks,
could be months,
until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what,
does that mean,
from a common sense,
does that mean you're
I'll tell you what it means.
People to take to
it
the
means you
street?
have a fraudulent election. You're sending out 80 million ballots. They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two, they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
you think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes. And here's the deal. They count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
I asked you had an opportunity to respond.
Look at Carolyn Maloney.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what happened.
Vice President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome. And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to see an honest ballot count.
Gentlemen, you say that's the end of it? This is the end of this debate?
Honest ballot count.
We're going to leave it there. To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you and good night. Thank you.
Well, that was quite interesting indeed. He's a little bit more awake than I thought. He did look like he was going to go to sleep. One thing I want to point out, he said the new president. Where'd he get that from? Joe really tried. He almost lost his shit when they brought up Hunter, and that is a legit question. They were talking about the military. And that piece of garbage, Joe Biden, you know, he does support the Green New Deal. He will he will always support the radical left, as always, and he will never change. He is not in charge. Let's get that straight. Joe Biden is not in charge. Kamala Harris is in charge. And she's even said President candidate Harris. She said it more than once. So, on that note, I thank you all very much. There's still a lot to digest. I'm going to go back. I'm going to take some notes and talk about a little bit later. Please join great programs like Speakeasy, Promises Kept, Boogie Bumper, Neil, UK Neil, Based Amy, and everybody out there. We all support the president. Thank you very much. I do appreciate you all. Chris Wallace was a complete asshole. Yes, he was. He did. I mean, he did not give the president a fair shake, which we all should have expected. And I don't expect it in the next debate either. The thing is, the deal is, man, referring Joe, yeah, man, here's the deal. He did not want it. He really almost lost his shit when it came to him, and I was waiting for it. But he was a little bit more on his game than I thought he would be, but he still lied through his shit ass. And the president was a good fighter. He's always up for that rebound. He can take on anything. He is correct on everything the president has said. He did not lie. Welcome back. The debate is over. I hope you catch the replay, Becca. Welcome back anyhow. It was very intriguing. It was very quick. Hour and a half. Wow. So the whole thing is the president was right. He does want to get rid of cows and cars and everything. Oh, you watched it? Oh, good. Anybody have any thoughts of how the debate went? I think it was quite intriguing indeed. Hello, welcome back, Kevex. I think that the president always is on his toes, and this bullshit of Obama getting the anything during the debate. What are your thoughts? How did it go? How anything? A little bit. You're right. Yeah. But he did not support the police. Law and order, he did not support. Wish I had. Yeah, I quit watching Wallace a little bit ago when he kind of showed his true colors of what a lefty he really is, or whatever you want to call him. He used to be a good reporter and stick to the facts, but apparently he's lost his way. As of many. When you are not being fair, like Wallace was being, and they did this the last debate too. They gave Hillary more time to answer than him. And Joe should not have gotten his time back. This ain't the damn Senate, dude. I'm surprised he didn't say, can I relinquish my time? Oh, he did. Oh, he did. He won completely. people have seen results with this president. In his terminology, the likes you've never seen. You know, under Biden, we would be literally like Escape from New York, the movie, or Escape from LA. It'd be chaos. They're already starting it because of Antifa, and he did not denounce Antifa. I think that the president is, in a way, choosing, or he's more into the debate than to say, I'm going to make them a terrorist organization. You got to be quick. So when Biden did not denounce them, and he brought up the Proud Boys, which is a fucking low blow. I mean, they're not perfect, but you don't bring them in. They're pretty patriotic, you know. As long as they don't start fights, you know, which I don't think really happens because it's always Antifa. They're allowed to march where they can get permits, and they're freely to do so. This is America. They know it. And funny how Black Lives Matter didn't come up there, Joe. Must have forgot about them. And he was the most divisive, as far as Obama, was a very divisive race hater. He wanted segregation back. Biden said Antifa was not right. Exactly. Biden was spouting, repeating other people talking points. He sure was. That's all he knows. He has no thoughts of his own. They must have gave him a shot in the ass to kind of perk him up a little bit, or put the scripts in front of him. But I can't wait for the next debate. You know what? I kind of wonder about Pence, though. You can't win a debate talking points from... You're right. Exactly right, Winning TV. It's going to be interesting in the next debate with Harris and Pence. Pence is pretty laid back, but I think he can be on his toes. But Kamala can be kind of aggressive. But Pence is a lot smarter than Joe. He's not going to say, oh, well, I'm going to appoint the first black woman to the Senate. Remember that line from him? What was the thoughts on the mail-in ballots? Well, of course, Joe wanted mail-in ballots. He says there's no problem. You know, we heard the same song, and but yeah, I can't wait to see it because I like to see how he reacts. He's very calm and cool about things, you know. He's not emotionless, but he's there. He's scoping it. You know what I'm talking about. When it comes to the ballots, the president did point out the fraud going on. Of course, Project Veritas damned Omar with their undercover work. Thank you, James O'Keefe. Wonderful job, as usual. So when the ballots came up, the talking points were exactly right. They were found in trash cans, back of salons, etc. Just can't. Oh, thank you for the subscription. I did turn my sounds off for the debate. Be polite to the audience. They're probably like, well, I better not. Well, they probably had some hair from somebody's wife, and they kind of lured them out. That's probably what they did. Yeah, it's kind of creepy, but it's true. Everybody knows he's a freak. But the The whole debate was very good. It was very fast, which is good. I'm rooting to leave him on. Mine are so long, though, especially the diamond. I gotta shorten that sucker. Still haven't done it yet. So I, it's a very good debate. I think they need. I don't know how they can improve the moderators unless you get Guffield. Have at least one good anchor and one suck ass for Joe anchor, because it'll be interesting, I think, to compare. Get Gutfeld, get Hannity up there and ask questions, because he ain't gonna throw no softballs to Joe. There ain't no way. Trump can take the hard hits. He can take the rapid questions. He's quick, especially when it came to the Green New Deal. Talk about what, $10 trillion is it what that would cost? Taking down buildings, rebuilding them, and the whole schmeal. That would absolutely put a lot of people out of work. You're not thinking about the construction people. You're talking about people working the buildings too. He didn't account to that. But I have to, I'm very honest about this. I'm doing better than I was 4 years ago. I really am. I'm making more money now than I did then, thanks to this president. I'm not making less. Biden has this imaginary dream. If we can get you $20 an hour, you're going to vote for him. That's not realistic. $15 an hour working at McDonald's isn't. Yes, Bill O'Reilly, perfect. He would, because he's a monster. He would get him, and he wouldn't take no crap. But the people working at McDonald's and restaurants, some do work hard, some don't. And here's an example. I went to a different city. It was a little bit late, plenty of time open. They said, we couldn't serve you, we're closed. It was 8 o'clock. They were all outside smoking a cigarette, talking. So there's some of your McDonald's workers. I'm not knocking all of them. Some do work hard, but you don't make $15 an hour at that job. Sorry. It's just, to me, or $20. It's not realistic. You can probably make somewhere like 10. 10's reasonable. 11, depending on your position, how long you've been there, etc. So, McDonald's for high school kids and seniors, not the career choice. Exactly. There you go. Not a career choice. It's kind of get yourself started. It's kind of to help the seniors get by, which is sad, but it does happen. And some seniors do like to work just to work. My grandpa was like that. He worked when he was 95 because he wanted to. So I'm going to call it a night. Thank you very much for everybody stopping by and on the replay. I really do appreciate it. Please check out Winning TV, Promises Kept, and Speakeasy on Saturday nights. Phil does Thursdays and Tuesdays at 6 o'clock-ish. 6:30. So check out Boogie Bumper, Based Amy, UK Neil, all of them. They're really great shows that support each other. Please be kind to each other, and let's make America great. And say prayers for the president, vice president, in the whole country, because at 6:30, there you go. Let's make sure we all tune in. So let's say prayers for everybody in the country and our allies around the world, it's going to get better in the past few days. The dam is broke for General Flynn. We're getting more documents. The evidence is coming out. Even though today General Flynn was in court, he's still kind of in limbo, but he'll prevail. It's in the stars. I will open up the chest. And let's get out there, support the president, volunteer. I signed up to be a poll watcher. Do the same thing. Just make sure we have a fair election. Get a sign in your yard if that's what you like to do. Some way to help regain the House for the GOP, keep the Senate, and re-elect the president. It's so important. It's not an exaggeration how important this is. Oh, let's see. 27 for movie time. Winning TV 16. Becca 12. Lemons. Congrats. And I shall see you very, very soon. I promise. Let's see. And everybody, please be safe out there. Have a good night. I do appreciate everybody who has stopped in. Everybody be safe. Help your neighbors. Be kind to everyone that you meet. Support your local law enforcement.